NCDC confirms 242 new cases of COVID-19 as President Buhari approves verification of herbal remedy.
Economic Sustainability Committee holds 5th meeting to submit report soon.
Very soon, this is going to go for the President's consideration, and I believe that action will begin to follow.
Federal government inaugurates project implementation team for resuscitation of Abuja Steel Complex.
Ensure the resuscitation of the Ajakuta steel plant based on the original design.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we continue our discussion on COVID-19, the search for solutions.
The emergence of coronavirus in Wuhan, China, and the subsequent export of the virus to other parts of the world, including Nigeria, pose a serious challenge to scientists and medical experts across the globe who are working assiduously to find a cure for COVID-19.
Well, Nigerian scientists, particularly those in the medical field, have joined the search for a solution to the rampaging virus, which has changed the way of life of people across the world, both socially and economically.
And as part of our responsibility to unravel efforts of Nigerian medical experts in the search for a solution to COVID-19, NTA's Good Morning Nigeria assembled a team of pharmaceutical scientists and other medical experts to discuss the journey so far in finding a solution to the virus.
Now, the guests said that the sequence and architecture of the virus have been determined from the index case in Nigeria, which would help in getting new drugs for COVID-19.
And, Kingsley, they likened the condition to a war situation where several things can be tried towards coming up with appropriate solutions to the ravaging COVID-19 in Nigeria.
Well, the medical scientists advocated indigenous approach in the nation's search for a drug and also cautioned against depending on foreign countries for a solution.
And the guest, however, agreed that Nigeria is blessed with a lot of herbal resources that can be explored for local solutions, just like the case in Madagascar.
Now, the experts further suggested what they described as the repurposing of medicines, which of course would be, according to them, the quickest way to overcome the virus.
They also emphasized the need for coordinated research and development specifically for coronavirus as a test case and, above all, for other diseases that can be prevalent in Nigeria, like malaria, sickle cell, anemia, Lassa fever, kidney disease, to mention just a few.
All right, so one question to ask is whether Nigerian scientists and pharmacists are incapable of coming up with indigenous solutions to coronavirus. But if they are, what local solutions are on the cards for the management of coronavirus in the country? Must we always rely on foreign countries to provide solutions to our problems? What kind of collaboration is required to address the challenge of COVID-19 frontally within the country in terms of medicaments? And how many claims for the cure are pending or are awaiting trials or approval? That's our focus on Good Morning Nigeria today. I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I welcome you to the program.
And I am Jumo Yusuf. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be having our complimentary segments, newspaper review, business, and so on. But first, let's take the highlights of the news with Usman Aliu. Good morning, Usman.
Good morning, Juma and Kingsley. Many thanks for joining us for the morning news. At about midnight of 11th May 2020, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control confirmed additional 242 new cases of COVID-19 in the country. The breakdown of the figures show that Lagos has 88, Kano 64, Katsina 49, while Kaduna State records 13 new cases. Others are Ogun 9, Gombe 6, Adamawa 4, FCT 3, while Ondo, Oyo, Rivers, Zamfara, Borno, and Bauchi states have 1 new case each. With this development, Nigeria has a total of 4,641 cases of COVID-19, out of which 902 were discharged, while 150 patients died of the virus. Nigeria is expecting samples of the much-touted Madagascar herbal remedy for the COVID-19 from Guinea-Bissau, where trial allocations for many countries are domiciled. Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, Boss Mustafa, at the daily briefing in Abuja said President Buhari has approved scrutiny and verification of the herbal remedy for Nigeria's health authorities.
Of the quantity that has been allocated to Nigeria, and we are supposed to make arrangements to freight it out of Guinea-Bissau to Nigeria. I've received instructions from Mr. President to make arrangements to freight it home with a clear instruction that I should subject it to the validation process similar to what would happen to any other medicine or syrup or vaccine that is discovered or created internally.
Now, the federal government has inaugurated a 13-man presidential project implementation team to resuscitate the Ajakuta Steel Complex. Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Mustafa, who doubles as chairman of the implementation team, charged members to start the process of bringing the steel project back to life.
Ensure the resuscitation of the Ajakuta Steel Plant based on the original design. Ensure timely commissioning of the Ajakuta Steel Plant within a reasonable period to be agreed upon by the parties to the agreement, and recommend primary tenure of a bill operate transfer BOT concession.
The Economic Sustainability Committee is already putting finishing touches to its report to be submitted soon to the President. This was at the committee's 5th meeting held on Monday and chaired by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo. The committee is looking into the implementation of strategies aimed at alleviating the sufferings of Nigerians at this time of the coronavirus pandemic. Besides developing further palliatives, the committee will also develop a sustainability plan on repositioning the economy and growing the non-oil sector. Laulu Akonde, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity, Office of the Vice President, speaks to the State House correspondent Gideon Ifade on issues raised at the meeting.
The committee is now in the stage of developing a draft, and it's in the process of finalizing the report. And of course, the Vice President has been intimating Mr. President even up till today about the work and the progress of the committee. So very soon, this is going to go for the President's consideration, and I believe that action will begin to follow promptly from there.
The Senate Committee on Federal Character and Intergovernmental Affairs has screened 6 out of the 38 nominees sent to the Senate by President Muhammadu Buhari for confirmation as chairman and commissioners of the Federal Character Commission.
As the nominee from the presidency, how do you expect to run this office?
I look at the whole of 36 states, they are all my states. I will still be fair in whatever I do.
I wish you all the best.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives will soon come up with a legislation that will give constitutional backing to social intervention programs of the federal government. This issue came up when the House Speaker, Femi Bajabiamila, hosted the leaders of the civil society organizations.
What we're trying to do, because you have the same programs, similar programs in other countries, in America, in Germany, in England, but they're codified so that it's not subject to anybody's desire or how he wants to distribute. It's written, it's embedded and baked into the law that is made for that purpose.
And that's the news highlight this morning. The program Good Morning Nigeria continues shortly after this break. Stay with us.
viral spread is when infected people sneeze and cough. Small droplets of fluid expelled by cough or sneezes are laced with viruses looking for new respiratory tracts to infect. When a sick person sneezes around someone who is healthy, the virus can land in the nose, mouth, or even the eyes, causing an infection. Symptoms can include fever, cough, shortness of breath. Symptoms may appear within 2 to 14 days. Seek medical advice if you develop symptoms and have been in close contact with a person known to have COVID-19, or if you live or have recently been in an area with ongoing spread of COVID-19. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
This administration accords priority to the development of our country's railway transportation.
The federal government rail modernization project is all about improving and changing the system of the rail.
New modern rail stops have been procured to meet the demand of servicing passenger traffic and also to deal with freight.
The University of Transportation is my attempt at responding to the question of how do we maintain and manage all these infrastructures that we are building.
I would say I'm very impressed. Since boarding, the seats are quite convenient.
And I found it really enjoyable to do this service.
We are introducing the e-ticketing very soon, so that you can buy your ticket wherever. You don't need to go to station.
We want the Nigerians to take ownership of these projects and be partners with us.
Your hogs are a comfy place for dropping in, for lazing around, and hanging out. So we've designed our hugs to be just as comfy, with the super absorbent core to lock wetness away, and the soft, flexible waistband. Our most comfortable diaper keeps baby comfy at every angle. We'll never stop finding new ways to hug more like you. Huggies, your hugs inspire ours.
We have observed the lockdown. We have practiced the measures in order to curb the spread of the virus, but we can do better. The coronavirus spread is increasing daily, and only together can we cut down the numbers and defeat the spread of the virus. Remember, COVID-19 is not a death sentence, and a recovered patient cannot spread the disease. Do not stigmatize. Do not hesitate to report any case, or if you have come in contact with anybody that has been infected with COVID-19. If you have cough and fever, please stay at home and call your state hotline. Find state numbers at www.covid19.ncdc.gov.ng. Remember, it is for your own good and for the good of every Nigerian. Let us do better and defeat the virus. Together, we can do this. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
If you're just joining us, this is Good Morning Nigeria, and we are live in Abuja. Federal government has rolled out palliatives to assist micro, small and medium enterprises in the country to bounce back in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. Details with Kolo Mohammed on Business News.
Hello, good to know you're there. As the nation buckles under the strain of gradual easing of lockdown, businesses are pursuing the rhythm of a status better than as it were. Micro, small and medium enterprises are said to be amongst the worst hit. Federal government's planned palliatives just may hand micro, small and medium enterprises sufficient brace to fly again in the face of the pandemic.
There are a lot of other palliatives rolled out by the federal government. Part of it is moratorium on all the federal government loans. Those moratorium on federal government loans include trader money, market money, farmers money, and it also includes money rolled out by the Bank of Industry, money rolled out by the Development Bank of Nigeria, money rolled out by Bank of Agriculture, and a lot of other institutions that are attached to the federal government.
Social distancing is ensured to clamp down on the spread of COVID-19 as operations at most business facilities are regulated. Time now to let you see how equities market opened the week. I am Kolom Hambad, thanking you for having you along.
Many thanks, Kolo Mohammed, for the business package. Coming up next is Newspaper Review.
Our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atobi, is in the studio as usual. Good morning.
Good morning, Jimmy. Thank you. Good morning, Kingsley.
Right.
Good morning, Nigeria.
Bayo, good to see you.
Good to see you too. Thank you.
Okay, Juma?
Yeah, so we'll begin with the Punch newspaper on the review today. And just above the masthead, we have FG sets up panel to revive Ajaokuta steel plant. You find that story on page 19. COVID-19 will worsen Nigeria's debt situation, says NESG. That's coming from the Minister of Finance. You find that story on page 19. Reps set modalities for NCDC bill public hearing. That story is on page 14. Egbin, 10 power plants suffer gas shortage. That story is on page 22. And just below the masthead, we have Madagascar drug COVID organic to be used when confirmed safe and working. That's coming from the Presidential Task Force. Federal with a rider, federal government, WHO carrying out drug trials in the FCT, Lagos, Kano, and others. NCDC asks private laboratories to test suspected Nigerians free. And the picture story there, Deputy Governor of Kaduna State, Dr. Hadiza Balarabe, monitoring the interstate lockdown enforcement of the state boundary with Katsina State at Gangara, Giwa local government, and the trial of the state's lockdown violators by a mobile court in Sabo, Kaduna on Monday. That's the picture story there. And just below the picture story, we are investigating alleged diversion of palliatives. That's coming from the Kano Anti-Graft Agency. That story is on page 7. Court orders for feature of ex-presidential fleet commanders 510 million naira. That story is on page 8. Oshibajo now chairs our group, Association of Short People. That's coming from El Rufai. You find that story on page 7. At the bottom plate of the Punch newspaper, Bauchi infected health workers rises to 15. Find that story on page 14. 5 friends gang rape Kaduna teenager. Police accused of cover-up. With a rider, Abuja community protest as police shot businessman dead. You find that story on page 4 and 9. Heads may roll in AFCC over Benue shawarma dealers arrest. That story is on page 5.
Okay, let's take a look at the leadership newspaper. The lead story is on COVID-19, but immediately below the nameplate it says federal government, states and local governments shared 1.95 trillion naira in Q1. That's the first quarter of this year. That's attributed to NATI. The lead story says COVID-19 with a kicker. High expectations as President Buhari orders test of Madagascar herbal remedy. And you have a number of riders to that headline. Drug to undergo analysis by NAFDAC and others. Nigeria's consignment to arrive from Equatorial Guinea. And it's unacceptable for patients to attack health workers. Federal government warns. Lagos, Ekiti, and Adamawa discharge another 43 patients. Gombe governor and religious leaders meet on reopening of worship centers. And 60 Amajire contract virus in Jigawa. And Borno government ends lockdown. Court convicts 605 lockdown violators in Kaduna. And also there you see the latest graphic representation of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria as at the 11th of May, being yesterday. Federal government sets up Ajakuta Steel Project Implementation Committee. And then right at the foot of the front page itself, NCC debunks rumors of 5G switching in Lagos. And Kalu, not a beneficiary of Supreme Court verdict, still in Kuje prison. Lockdown extension. NHRC, that's the National Human Rights Commission, recalls 11 extrajudicial killings and 104 complaints. Page 2, woman in police net for buying baby for 130,000 naira. Details on page 11. Bio.
Okay, let's start with the COVID-19. With 242 cases registered late yesterday, the total cases we have in Nigeria now is 4,641. Again, Lagos is still ranking highest with 8. Kano is shot itself to the second place with 64. Katsina had 49, Kaduna 13, Federal Capital Territory had only 3. There were 10 deaths, bringing the total deaths to 150. Kano State government has extended the lockdown pronounced by Mr. President on April 27 by 1 week. This followed consultation with the federal government and health sector personnel. Kano State yesterday said that so far they have registered 666 cases and there are 32 associated deaths. The extension of the lockdown by 1 week is to ensure that there is control to contain the pandemic. Meanwhile, the chairman of the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19 has described as unacceptable threats to the lives of health workers. Some have been detained and held hostage, and patients are making unnecessary demands from them. Boss Mustafa said threats to life of caregivers, detention of some by patients, and other forms of harassment are reprehensible and should be deprecated. The PTF chairman called on state governors to take up appropriate measures. Meanwhile, in Lagos State, Lagos has closed a hotel and a club in the border town of Seme. The two were closed, according to the special advisor to the governor, Solomon Bonu, said that they were practicing high immorality conduct going on in those places. The nightclub had become a place for strippers, drug barons, and all sorts of mischief. The two hotels were not as lucky as they were luckier than the two in Port Harcourt, where Governor Wike supervised a demolition for violating Executive Order 6. He pronounced the two hotels were supervised for demolition, and the governor was emphatic. He said one of the hotels was specifically responsible for the death of a COVID-19 patient, and they had to take the trouble of contact tracing, and they had to find 7 other persons who had become, who were possibly contacts for the dead patient. And so he said he needed to emphasize that physically and strongly for that to resonance. Across in Akwa Ibom State, livestock markets in Akwa Ibom are to close throughout the month of May. Therefore, if you have goats, rams, and sheep, you are advised to make sure you sell them off, because they will not allow any cattle stock market for livestock to open. In the same vein, another body that was being smuggled into Akwa Ibom State has been stopped. There was a first one 3 days ago. It's smuggled into Ikot Edibang. But this one was coming through Ika local government area. And guess what? They were using footpath to transport the body into Akwa Ibom State. Meanwhile, the body has been deposited at the mortuary. The persons accompanying the body have all been put in isolation, and they will undergo a test to ensure that they don't import COVID-19 into Akwa Ibom. Talking about organic COVID, you remember the Madagascar COVID-19 drug? Federal government is said to have ordered, given instructions to the chairman of the Presidential Task Force to acquire the COVID organic from Madagascar. The Minister of Health, who disclosed this, said that it will be used in the Federal Capital Territory and 5 other states, Lagos, Ogun, Kaduna, Sokoto, and Kano. Boss Mustafa is reported to have said that the president directed the airlift of the COVID organics to Nigeria. But however, it will be subjected to scientific analysis before being used. This is to confirm its safety and workability. And you may recall that the World Health Organization has said that it has not approved the drug. The Madagascar president, Andry Rajoelina, says if it were a European country which had discovered this remedy, would there be so many doubts about it? The problem is that it came from Africa and perhaps from one of the poorest countries in the world, and that has discovered this formula to save the world.
Yeah, but Bayo, I mean, thanks a lot. I just wanted some clarification because what you were saying about Akwa Ibom, yes. The details of the story, I think the details spoke to the fact that the state would no longer, in the interim, admit trucks bringing in livestock on account of the people smuggling also going with that. Not that the markets that are in situ for livestock should sell off their stock and shut down. It says, look, there will be no fresh admission of livestock using trucks, what we popularly refer to as trailers, because of the many rampant incidents across the country where persons are being smuggled along with cattle and sheep and others. Yes.
But this one was specific. The chairman for the COVID-19 for Akwa Ibom State is Dr. Emmanuel Ekuem, and his instructions were specific. He said livestock sellers are advised to sell off their goats, cows and rams and to proceed to shut down.
But how is that possible if you don't have a buyer?
It would be ridiculous.
It can't work that way. You need a buyer to sell something. So the market can't close down completely. Like Kingsley said, those coming in must be stopped, but the ones in the state can't just be sold. There are so many.
Well, I'm reporting what the papers report.
I understand. I mean, no, but you also discuss what, whether it's a feasible instruction.
Yes, I think they need to be specific.
All persons who sell rice, dispose of your stock immediately, and then after you dispose of your stock, what happens?
What happens?
I mean, it would be, yes. Okay, but incidentally, our conversation segment today focuses on the search for solutions. I mean, it's an aspect that we have always focused on, you know, in this COVID-19 season. You were talking about the Madagascar COVID organics, you know, which everybody is scrambling for. So I'm sure our guests, you know, will have enough opportunity, you know, to elaborate on that. There is a story of Oji Uzokalo. I'm sure you heard what happened at the Supreme Court last week. The Supreme Court, and then of course, what is also playing out now, and so on and so forth. So,
in fact, one paper had reported that he's expected to be at the Senate today, which is completely a contrast to what you read there.
Yeah,
that's right. It's saying that it's not a beneficiary of the Supreme Court verdict, and it's still at Kuje prison. So we'll see how that plays out.
That's fake news saying he's going to be in the Senate as usual. Well, let's now go to the editorial, and it's coming from Nigerian News Direct. Talking about promoting local content in post-COVID-19 era. I'll read a little bit out of it. It is obvious that after the containment of the coronavirus pandemic, the world would face global economic challenges, especially countries that rely heavily on commodities for their foreign exchange earnings. Several experts have stressed the importance of local content development in Nigeria and called on the federal government to invest in local content development to sustain the nation's economy. Mayo.
Well, the editorial is happening on the fact that we are blessed with substantial raw materials in areas of agriculture and other natural resources. And the best time after COVID-19 is to look inwards so that we can be self-reliant, because COVID-19 has dealt serious blow to the economy of the world and to every nation. And the best approach for us is to look inwards. It also emphasized the fact that COVID-19 exposed the underbelly of the inadequacy in our health system. And it is now time for an opportunity for us to improve on our health system so that both the high and low will not need to look for resources to resort to health tourism in the near future. There is also the African Union Economic, Social, Cultural Council has also advised that, in fact, the whole of the continent should look continental inwards to make sure that we put a lot of emphasis in the development of our resources rather than exporting raw materials and importing the same finished products at exorbitant cost. For us in Nigeria, if you are going along the airport route, there is an international cancer center for which huge sums of money were gathered during the launch. What has become of that? Now we are struggling, looking right and center for bed spaces to accommodate potential COVID-19 cases. That place is lying fallow. It's an opportunity now. Make it an international cancer center. If you want, name it Umaru Musa Yar'Adua Cancer Center and flood the place with the best equipment we can get so that it can serve as a specialist location for treatment of cancer in the near future. So the opportunity which the editorial is happening on is that we should use this COVID-19 as a silver lining to improve on our economy, to improve on inward looking for economic development, and as well as improving our health facilities.
Well, you know, Bayo, part of our news bulletin this morning indicated that the Economic Sustainability Committee, chaired by the Vice President, is virtually ready with his report, which is going to forward to the President. And that indicates that the government is already thinking about the economic implications of COVID-19 and therefore going forward what measures should be in place. But as you have said, the health implications of COVID-19 would not appear to have been factored into the Economic Sustainability Committee's work. And indeed, it shouldn't be at the moment. Fine, I mean, it's a war situation. There is a war cabinet, if you like, against COVID-19, and that war cabinet is the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19. But there also ought now to be a committee saying, look, what are the implications in terms of our health management strategy arising from the fact that we were caught unawares, if not flat-footed, when COVID-19 made a landfall in the country. And there are many aspects of this. On our program some weeks ago, I mean, the issue was medicine security. Medicine security. We can see how medical supplies dried up elsewhere because every country wanted to just keep whatever it had, and we are dependent on imports. So how do we fast-track or how do we accelerate our medicine security after COVID-19? How do we ramp up our primary healthcare centers? Because if you had primary healthcare centers that were working then, and some of these issues that we are talking about, scrambling to set up isolation centers where you just throw in one bed and so on and so forth, might not have arisen.
Yes, because out of the 774 local government areas, I think each one has a primary health center. And it should have. And if they have, the place to begin is to start from that. And so that if those ones are properly taken care of, although there is always the challenge, doctors and some health workers are very reluctant to be posted to the rural areas. But if the facilities are there and there is the incentive, they will be encouraged. And that is the point to start.
Well, our health sector needs a revival, actually, because it's like they caught us unawares and we are saying we can do it, but they really need to look into it. Thank you so much, Baya. Thank you so much, Baya, for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Thank you. We'll take a break now. When we return, we start our conversation on solutions, finding solutions for COVID-19 in Nigeria. Don't go away.
The coronavirus, also known as COVID-19, is spreading at an alarming rate all over the globe, including Nigeria. With the number of infected persons in Nigeria increasing daily, prevention is better than cure. Coronavirus has no cure. The virus spreads from one person who affects two persons, and by the time the affected person is isolated, the two persons have affected four, and it keeps spreading. You must take preventive measures to save yourself and that of the people around you. Always wash your hands with soap and water. Put distance between yourself and others. Whenever you cough or sneeze, cover your mouth. Clean and disinfect surfaces. Stay at home if you're sick and contact the proper authorities. Together, we can cut down the spread of the coronavirus. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest TV network.
Alpha, say tomorrow still day on.
What's your tomorrow?
Community meeting now.
You know they here, Abi?
Now beggy. See, if we meet for my house, inside parlor, then go no.
This COVID-19 is not a child's play.
If you want to elect a new secretary, we fit
Do one for WhatsApp or for Skype or even on Zoom. Or we just wait.
I will not negotiate.
This social distancing, it is non-negotiable.
Not every infected person shows symptoms, but every infected person is contagious. Avoid large gatherings and self-isolate if you think you might have come in contact with a carrier. Your safety and the safety of others is in your hands.
This message is from the Akinfade Foundation in partnership with the National Orientation Agency with support from MacArthur.
Do you not know that our enemies have no face? They are indigents of no state. They come from no place. And if this boat capsizes, every one of us will go under. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer. Do not say, I am the Iroko when the forest is burning. Do not say, I am the Obeche when the forest is burning. Our differences will not stop us from perishing together. So when the drums sound, let everybody answer.
I just don't understand this coronavirus thing. Is it real?
See, coronavirus, known as COVID-19, it's a global problem and has killed thousands of people in China, Italy, Spain, UK, US, and other countries around the world.
Okay. Now, why are they saying that we should stay home?
Because if you go outside and get in contact with someone who is infected, you become infected and then come back home, affect your family. That's how it happens in other countries.
Now, please, help me explain what this social distance is all about.
See, as we are now, the virus travels through the air and by touch. We must maintain 6-foot distance at all times.
So it's not by washing my hands with soap and water or hand sanitizer that is only important.
Washing of our hands regularly is very important. But we must come together and fight this virus like we did Ebola. It is our responsibility to each other.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
Thanks for rejoining us. And to begin our discussion on the second part of COVID-19, Search for Solutions, let's watch some excerpts of the first episode put together by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
One scientist came up and said something about Agbo. We're talking about heat, affecting corona. We're talking about respiratory problems. There are plans that have been documented over the years that we could put together And to be very frank with you, we have already done that. We have a catalog of plans that have been put together that we're trying to look at it. Well, how do we go forward when we don't have the might of the federal government to be able to push the research forward?
We have, as a matter of fact, developed an immunomodulatory agent that is a good adjunct for treating people with coronavirus. The science indicates that it's people who are either immunocompromised or above a certain age or have underlying illnesses that are most affected. So bringing in NIPRID's immunomodulatory agent into the mix is a very, very powerful tool that the country can use.
We might need to bring in rapid diagnostic kits. And when these rapid diagnostic kits are brought in, because as I said, there is no time we have to start off with those rapid, we have the capacity to determine the sensitivity of such imported kits, even before they are used on our people.
When you talk about phytomedicine, we have a center for traditional, alternative, and complementary medicine here, and we are working with a group called the Physicians of Natural Medicine. I've been inundated by some of their groups with a number of their agents that they have even sent to us. But it's quite difficult at this stage to begin to look at that without proper assessment of some of these drugs. So we need to look at their component. We need to be sure of their safety before we deploy them to the field for an outbreak like this. These are the limitations we do have in such situations.
All right, now those were excerpts from our last conversation on the search for solutions with respect to COVID-19. Incidentally, one of the guests on that occasion is back here with us in the studios, and would like to welcome Dr. Obi Adigwe, who is Director General of NIPRID, that is the Nigerian Institute of Pharmaceutical Research and Development. Dr. Adigwe, delighted to have you again on the program.
It's good to be here.
Okay, also here with us this morning is Dr. Ben Amodu. Dr. Amodu is the Clinical Director, African Alternative Medicine Hospital here in Abuja, Nigeria's Federal Capital Territory. He's also a fellow of the Complementary and Alternative Medicine and also the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, a lead phytomedicine researcher. Quite a mouthful of your titles. Dr. Ben Amodu, delighted to have you with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Also with us in the studio is Dr. Muhammad Ibrahim Jawa, founder and president, MIJ College of Traditional Medicine and Acupuncture, and president, African Traditional Medicine Association of Nigeria. It's good to have you join us.
Thank you very much.
And joining us from our Enugu studio is Professor Ernest Ugo, Professor of Homeopathic Pharmacology and Therapeutics, and also President, Nigerian Institute of Homeopathy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much, Professor Ugo. Professor Ugo, of course, we're having him for the second time on this conversation. There was a day we were talking about boosting the immune system, and he was our guest here in the Abuja studios. But today, he's there in Enugu. Well, gentlemen, I mean, since our first conversation on the search for solutions, we have seen a ramp up in the number of infections. We have also seen, unfortunately, a number of the fatalities. But gladly, we have also seen a number of the recoveries, even though the rates and numbers of infection outstrip exponentially the rates and numbers of recoveries. But on the solution side, you still have a mix of all kinds of claims and all kinds of propositions. Some would say, from that which is interesting to the ridiculous, including what President Trump at one point indicated, that perhaps it might be faster to inject. And I'm sure everybody knows that. So let me not re-emphasize that. But certainly the search for solutions is still on with respect to COVID-19. Let's bring in now our experts to begin to tell us precisely what ought to be done from the Nigerian perspective. First, Dr. Ben Amodu, what's your understanding of what's playing out?
Well, before I comment, I think the President of America is not totally wrong. The antiseptic he proposed to be injected, the only mistake is that he should have said the use of herbal antiseptics, because copper has been known to have a lot of effects on coronavirus and other related viruses. And there are herbal products that contain large quantity of copper. And as a matter of fact, I have a set which is very, very effective, up to 80-90% effectiveness in corona and other related hemorrhagic fever-causing viruses. I am specifically into communicable and non-communicable diseases, and I would like to say that I work in the area of viruses, and this I have done for a number of years. And that is why probably I have a lot of solutions. Look at a situation where 10 days the pandemic broke out. WHO didn't know what to do. Nobody knew what to do. And the Federal Minister of Science and Tech says local scientists working in this particular area should come forward. And I wrote them a letter because I had done a lot of work, as I've said. My cancer of the throat prevention and cure, I was just waiting to see the mode of action of the corona. And we heard that it's told the truth. And for us, we just propped up the cancer of the throat remedy, double-barrel formulated it to have immune boosting, and then any other invading agent would be dealt with. But as usual, I'm always of the combo in herbal treatment. I prefer combo. By combo, I mean Sabmal we already have. It has about 97% effectiveness as an anti-malaria. It has a prophylactic property. It has suppression property. It was compared with chloroquine. It was compared with pyrimethamine and found that it has activities equal to them or even better than them. So, and it has undergone 3-phase animal studies, which is the standard. The only thing left is clinical trial. And if we're allowed to do clinical trial, just like the president has approved now, that let all be tried together, that will be good enough. Because that product has 97% effectiveness against P. falciparum, which is the causative agent of malaria, and other viruses. And it is an adjunct in the treatment of HIV/AIDS, in the treatment of sickle cell, in the treatment of hepatitis, and so many other diseases. So you can see that for us as a country, this is over 15 years ago this discovery has been made. The next stage is clinical trial. If we're allowed to go to clinical trial along with these products, Sabmal Safa 6, which takes care of lungs, fibrosis, lung cancer, lung diseases, and pneumonia, it will be the one to beat. And then the third product is the SAB. SAB has won 3 times African Immune Booster of the Year. 3 haven't been consistent on the African market. And it was ambassadors of West Africa, African, in Sheraton Hotel that gave us the award. And as at today, a high-profile hospital in this town, a HIV patient who had oxygen, everything all around, he has not eaten, he was brought on a stretcher, he was in the emergency room, about to be, well, he was already on oxygen, going down. The family rushed and said, our patient is dying. What did we do? We just gave 2 capsules mixed in Akamu. And the oxygen, whatever, was lifted a little bit and given. Do you know that within 15 minutes of sleep, the guy woke up and said, I am hungry. And immediately was given food. The guy who was brought on a stretcher woke and started moving before nurses came and removed everything. is now qualified to be given a side word. As we speak, the virus cannot be traced in the blood again. This is just to give a little example. With immune boosting properties, the rest will be history. And if they decide to test the work I'm doing and the work my other colleagues, like Prof, are doing, and NIPRID is doing, I'm not sure that anything will be able to beat us. Nigeria, we are the black nation on earth. We should maintain our leadership position. We don't just have to give in.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ben Amadou. Now, I would now like to come to Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim Jawa. You've heard what Dr. Ben Amadou has said. Like my colleague Kisley always says, we were caught flat-footed. Let's have your opening comment.
Yeah, thank you very much. Traditional medicine need not to be defined again because globally it was accepted that traditional medicine first before any invention of drugs used in allopathic medical practice. But the issue is we Africans have been changed from our normalcy to an abnormal. We behave otherwise, as I heard Professor Yu was saying, that we prefer something foreign. We always prefer something foreign and we go for it. Secondly, our scientists today tend to call science as something foreign brought to us, and we have to learn it the way they brought it to us, and we have to act. Our forefathers are the best scientists in the world. My reason is they live an environment and they study their environment very well. They study themselves very well. And with this they can design where to live on earth. You will see some villages are in certain locations. They are doing it deliberately because that is where they will be comfortable and they can adapt that environment. They have developed medicine for all the sickness they are suffering from. And up to now, in Africa, even in Nigeria, there are some locations that don't have the conventional health facilities and they are doing very well. And not that they are not developing sickness, they develop sickness and they manage it with the available resources in their environment. Some people call it taboo. When they say a pregnant woman should not be taking this, they say taboo. The science of pregnant woman not be taking some food in those days is they are avoiding, if she is given a bodybuilding food, the child will be very big, bigger than the pelvic cavity of the mother. And there was no surgery as of then. There's nothing they can do, but they have to lose the mother and the fetus. So that's why all these are signs. Don't take this because, if you are pregnant, don't take this because your child will be a thief or will be a witch. They are just doing it because they need to prevent something that they cannot handle medically. All these are sciences that we refuse to look at it, and we are following some borrowed knowledge. Now, coming back to what we are doing now on COVID-19. COVID-19 is not a new disease. The only what surprised traditional medicine practitioners is the mode of transmission, which they say through droplet, but this is what it do, this is what it do. But still they develop something to take care of that. And they have preventive measures that can be used by every individual in the family, in the community, and in the generality of the society. They have a lot of things. But unfortunately, we call them illiterate. I'm here with you because I can speak English. I'm here with you because I've gone to the conventional school and also I go to the conventional medical institutions. That's why I'm here with you. If not, you will reject me. Nigeria will reject me because I cannot speak English. We have many talented people in the society that can develop better than what we have developed. They can manage disease condition better than the way we are managing it in our conventional hospitals, teaching hospitals, and all other specialist hospitals. But we feel they are illiterate. And anytime we call traditional medicine practitioners, we feel we are going to teach them, not to learn from them or not to collaborate. But we always look at them as illiterate and we are going to teach them. When we call them, we say, we will help you to become somebody. They are already somebody in their society. They are recognized by people. People patronize them, even people of the higher level. The scientists patronize them. But today, when we call them, we subject them to what lower level, that we will help you, we will assist you, we will educate you. Traditional medicine practitioners in Nigeria today become substance that everybody feel like he will give them lecture, he will just call them, gather them, get 5,000 naira, 3,000 naira, or 1,000 naira from them and start telling them the chemical component of plant. They know that one better than you. They know plant more better than all other our scientists in the conventional institution. You can bring different herbs, 1,000 different herbs, dried one, which has been even changed its nature, but they can differentiate it for you in 1 minute. And they know the name, and they know their function. Why don't we recognize them as very important personality so that we learn from them and also we teach them what they are liking? Then we develop. Now that we are calling, really we will look at traditional medicine and so on. They collected specimen and they cannot do much about it because it has to be subjected to some clinical tests. Now, if the research department or the research institute are not funded, and you take our specimen to them like this, now I've submitted this to Federal Ministry of Health for the investigation. Maybe the first thing is acute toxicity study. When I ask for acute toxicity study, money has to be spent in doing that. And no any money now to us, known to us, and known to Nigerians today, that so money has been allocated for research purpose. There's nothing secret. The money is for Nigeria, the research is for Nigerians. It has to be transparent. We have to know. Yes, traditional medicine practitioners bring you a specimen. We have allocated so amount of money in our research institutions, and they will do that for you. It's our right to know. So we are expecting. Fortunate for me now, I am known by many people. I've developed something for COVID-19 in form of tea and also in form of steam inhalation. These two, right now, I am in the position to at least assist myself, paid for any, laboratory tests. But what of those that are better than me? They are in the village. Even to feed themselves is a problem. But they have better than my own. How can they do? There's nothing they can do because they are assisting the whole nation, and also you're asking them to go and pay their money to do this. It's not the best. We look for them, but before even doing that, I expect Federal Ministry of Health, by accepting that traditional medicine will work, they will sit down and set up a criteria of even collecting the specimen. If they collect this specimen, this is what you can do for us to accept your specimen. Please bring your specimen. We have this and it's sure. Because traditional medicine practitioners have been submitting a lot of their product and the answer is silent. Nobody will respond to them. They cannot be from Maiduguri, from Damaturu, to pay my money to come to maybe a research institute in Abuja or Lagos just to confirm whether you have worked on my product or not. The point is, we have to be at least coming together and work as a body. Nigeria's money is ours. The way we develop this, we are not developing individual. We are developing Nigeria, we are developing Africa, and we are developing the healthcare system.
Okay, well, Dr. Jawa, thank you very much for your opening salvo, as it were. We'll return to you in the course of the conversation. Dr. Obi Adigwe, Director General of NIPRID, but since our last conversation on this, some would say that a lot has changed, and a lot, of course, still remains the same. But the rave of the moment, even from the Nigerian perspective, will appear to be COVID organics produced by Madagascar. Now, from a research point of view, what has made this possible, and is this likely a silver bullet? And if so, why don't we produce the bullet ourselves here?
So, I have a very good answer to a very easy question. What has made COVID organics become what it is today? It's the amount of emphasis, it's the amount of prioritization that the Madagascan people put on phytomedicines. That's it. That's a very good answer to a very easy question. Dr. Charles, who is the Director General of the Institut Malache Recherche Appliquée, that's IMRA, the organization that brought up COVID organics, reports directly to President Rajoelina. That is how they have prioritized that aspect of their work. Madagascar produces Artemisia annua. I think they're the second or third largest producers in the whole world. So for them, developing a phytomedicine for which they have a significant amount of in Madagascar is both a potential solution to a healthcare problem as well as an economic, socio-economic problem. So that's the easy answer to your question. Now, coming back to Nigeria, the potential of phytomedicines is something we've known for quite a long while. Close to 10,000 plants in Nigeria have some form of ethnopharmaceutical and ethnomedicinal properties. Internationally, the herbal medicines market is worth trillions of dollars. And countries that have realized the potential of that particular industry have invested heavily. India, China, coming back to Africa, places like Madagascar, even South Africa. Like one of the previous speakers mentioned, in Madagascar, TMPs have good access to government, and from the onset, there is a framework for their intellectual property to be recognized, and a number of their interventions are tested, on account of the government. These are countries that have realized the potential and are keying into the potential of the phytomedicinal industry. At NIPRID, we have also realized the potential of phytomedicines. In fact, the very establishment of NIPRID was predicated on Nigeria being able to harness the phytomedicinal potential of the country. I have a sitting traditional medicine practitioner on my board. So as part of our policy direction, traditional medicine is key. And that is why when COVID-19 came up, in the list of about close to 12, 13 interventions we started to work on in NIPRID, 2 of them were clinical studies. We focused one of them on conventional medicines, and we focused the other one on phytomedicines, just to show you how we try to balance out the situation. Unfortunately, we have asked for the relevant funding for us to be able to progress our own intervention, and funding for us to be able to evaluate the plethora of claims that are coming out. In the intro, that came up earlier on, you had the DG of the other institute also mentioning, there are claims coming up. And if you don't have a framework, a funded framework for validating these claims, then frankly, your national strategy for addressing this particular type of intervention, homegrown solutions, is not complete. I want to give an update from the last time I came here. Last time I came here, we had written probably 20 letters. Following our session here, we had written a further 40 letters across board. All policymakers, philanthropists, development partners. It would surprise you to realize that so far we haven't gotten any additional funding for COVID-19. However, three entities have indicated very, very strong interest in what we are doing. And we're now talking about putting together the rest of the documentation for us to attract the funding. These three entities, none of them is Nigerian. None of them is Nigerian. I was speaking to a very senior colleague that's based in a francophone country in West Africa. And he told me, Obi, what are your people doing? It seems like Nigeria as a nation is starstruck by interventions from Oyibo land. You guys have it. Why are you guys not harnessing what you have? I felt embarrassed. I must say, I felt embarrassed. But that encapsulates, what the position is now. Going forward, I think, there is evidence that, our local interventions have potential. No doubt about it. We've got a product in NIPRID. Our product has gone through all the preclinical stages. We're looking at doing the clinical studies. And we've also put up a framework for validating studies. And we've made that framework very robust. We have a broad-based intake questionnaire that addresses things like ownership, that addresses things like mechanism of action, that addresses things like various active ingredients and excipients or inactive ingredients that are included. We've also put together a body of eminent and very erudite professors outside NIPRID across the nation that can act as an advisory body during the validation process. But honestly, without funding, we're not going to go very far.
Dr. Adugwe, thank you so much. We'll now be going to our Enugu Center where Professor Ernest Ugo is waiting. You've had the conversation from our guest in the studio. Would like to have your own assessment on COVID-19 and the search for a cure in Nigeria. We hear of the Madagascar remedy and all that. Don't we need to look inwards?
Thank you very much. What is happening now in Nigeria is very interesting. I want to thank the government for the interest they are showing now in traditional, complementary, and alternative medicine. We've been talking over the years. I am a member of the Ministerial Committee for Complementary and Alternative Medicine. And then my organization has a consultative status with the United Nations, with particular emphasis on homeopathy and complementary and alternative medicine. Definitely, we are very pleased with what is happening. I am representing homeopathy, and luckily enough, homeopathy works with other branches of natural medicine. Our medicines work with the other natural medicines. We don't have any drug reaction, adverse reaction, interaction. Even ozone therapy, we all work with all these systems. What is interesting with the issue of Madagascar
is that there is political will. That is it. There's political will from the part of the president and the committee in charge of traditional medicine, herbal medicine in Madagascar. Artemisia annua is in Nigeria. We can cultivate it and we can develop it. The homeopathic medicines don't have any problem because they are already recognized. Even the NAFDAC has listed most of the medicines that are being used by other countries. It's just to give us the support, the governmental support, so that we'll be able to sensitize our people. Take, for instance, the arsenicum album, which the Indians are insisting, advertising, that is an immune booster. We completely agree with them. And these things are produced in Nigeria. Arsenicum album is produced in Nigeria. The raw stocks that is used by the British in the alternative medical circles is produced in Nigeria. The Syncona officinalis, that of course is used for malaria treatment, is produced in Nigeria. We produce these things. So definitely the development in Nigeria now is very, very, very encouraging. We should all work together, and then the government should also, you can see everybody is pointing at funding. The government should also encourage these alternative doctors, complementary doctors, and herbalists to be able to move ahead and produce something that we can use in Nigeria. Cuba, for instance, has a very low rate of mortality during this COVID-19 pandemic. Why? They are combining both homeopathic medicines, herbal medicines, and orthodox medicines, and everybody is encouraged. When this pandemic started in Nigeria and worldwide, I and some of my colleagues were afraid that what is happening today will happen. You see, every day the rate is increasing, the rate is going higher, with all the measures being taken, with all the lockdown, with everything. And we're very happy that the government has now decided to encourage everybody. That is the way to go about it. We have the remedies, we manufacture the remedies, and these remedies, we're not claiming that they cure COVID-19. We are saying that they are immune boosters. After all, the vaccine the whole world is waiting for, what is it? Is it not immunotherapy? It's still to boost the immune system, create antibodies for the body to be able to fight the virus, the viral infection. So that is what I have to contribute this morning in my opening speech, that my own branch of medicine, the homeopathic medicine, can help and can work together with other branches of medicine to arrest this situation. Thank you very much.
Professor Ernest Ugo, I still would like to stay with you. You've spoken about the encouragement that government is providing now. Would you like to elaborate on that so that we have a sense of what it is? Because there are complaints, you heard from the other guests, of inadequate funding or improperly targeted funding. So what kind of encouragement are you receiving now?
The first thing the government has done, I'm not holding brief for government, but the first thing they have done, which requires congratulation, is that the Federal Ministry of Health has created a department of traditional, complementary, and alternative medicine. And there is a director there with a full, which is a type of recognition. And I'm aware that the government is also planning to encourage all the states to create a department of complementary, traditional, and alternative medicine in the ministries of health. That is the first encouragement. The second encouragement is the NTA is owned by the federal government. If the government didn't support your effort, they wouldn't have allowed us to be here. So we thank them also for giving us that opportunity. But unfortunately, the way things are going, is already a laid down plan over the years. So you don't blame the current government. If, for instance, we have this issue of COVID-19 patients, why shouldn't you allow the herbal, complementary, and alternative medical practitioners also to get involved in treating these patients? At least invite them and get these remedies and do whatever you want to do, whether it's clinical trial, as quickly as possible, and then let these remedies be used like it's being used in other countries. If you go to India today, there is a ministry, the Ministry of Ayush. This ministry is in charge of the herbal, complementary, and alternative medicine. They have undertaken some clinical trials on homeopathic remedies and other phytomedicines, and they are having results. And they are also allowed now to use some of these affected patients for the clinical trial. But here in Nigeria, there is fear. We would allow these people to use these medicines. You would allow them to come in contact with these patients. Then how do we develop? How do we progress? So that is what I am saying. The government is trying its best. But in the area of funding, they have to support all these practitioners by inviting them, getting the medicines, and subjecting them to tests as quickly as possible so that we can use to help our people. The rate at which this COVID-19 is going, I'm afraid they may be under lockdown. If this thing continues to rise, the way it's going, the government may be forced again to have a lockdown again, general lockdown, which is going to be more serious. So it is important that we start now to incorporate all these branches of medicine and then release some fund, monitor what is happening so that we can get to our destination. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Ernest. Back here in the studio, you talked about releasing some funds, looking into alternative medicines in Nigeria. I will now come to Professor Adugwe. Dr. Adugwe, a lot of patients have been discharged. It comes to mind, what has been used to treat these patients that have been discharged? Can you have an insight into that?
So, before I answer that question, I'd just like to follow on very quickly from the last contributor. In India, they don't only have a ministry that's focused on traditional medicine. They have an entire state that's focused on medicinal plant production. That's how serious they take phytomedicines. And these guys rake in billions of dollars from that industry every year. Regarding funding, there is an Igbo saying that Oburo diokbala bulunnaya madnine solukwana, meaning that it's not the first son who killed the father, right? So the responsibility for burying the father does not lie only on the first son. If you look at the coronavirus response across board, you have had the federal government putting in something, you have had development partners putting in something, you've had philanthropists putting in something, you've had state governments putting in something. In terms of the focus of bringing phytomedicines and African traditional medicines into the mainstream in the coronavirus fight, the central government, the federal government, has indicated the need for prioritization. On many occasions, both the Minister of Health, Dr. Ehanire, and the SGF, who chairs the PTF, Barrister Boss Mustafa, have consistently said that we are welcome to involving this, okay? What we have not seen is other people falling into place with government's obvious prioritization. Because the natural thing is that when government indicates they've prioritized an area, development partners should now key into that area because it indicates that that's a national priority. When the federal government prioritizes an area, state governors should also key into an area. Philanthropists should also key into an area. And we've seen it with a lot of people donating testing vans, people donating isolation centers and people. But no, apart from Dr. Ehanire and Barrister Boss Mustafa, who have consistently mentioned this, it's like every other person has drawn back. And so we need to be clear about it. Yes, the federal government has the responsibility to set policy priorities as well as provide funding. But we're not children. We know what's happening with government funding today. And if you don't bring in this obviously important aspect, it's not only government officials that will die. Everybody. It will affect everybody. So let's not start saying only government. No, that's the wrong approach. Everybody needs to get involved. In NIPRID, like I've said earlier on, we've developed a validation framework. If the northern governors, for instance, say we want to sponsor the validation of 10 products from the north, very quickly the southeast governors will say the same thing. You will find the southwest governors coming in. And this would generate income for them, because if any product from that particular area comes up, they will own part of the patent.
Dr. Adigwe,
yes.
You're making a very important point. You've made a number of important points along with the other guests, but I would like you to recast what you have just said in terms of leveraging on the policy framework already provided by the federal government. You're saying, look, federal government alone cannot do this. Let others, development partners, donors, XYZ come in. You've tried to break it down by saying, look, northern governors, southeast, all various kinds of fora, what would you expect of them? Just restate it.
So you can, there is already a framework for validating herbal medicines and phytomedicines. There is a framework for progressing these interventions through clinical studies. The problem is that there is a funding gap. Some of these practitioners have written to us, and by the time we give them the true bill for validating and taking it to the next level, it's 20 million. They can't afford it. So a group of entities, say for instance regional governments or philanthropic partners, for instance, can say, well, for these products that are from this part of the country, or for these products that our organization indicates that we have interest in, can you from your database pick out 5 that have been submitted, and we will pay for the validation of those 5. And I'll give you an example. One of the entities that approached us from the Francophone countries said to me, if we give you $100,000, for instance, for Niprimion to progress it through scientific, through clinical studies, will you be prepared to give us 10% of the patent? So these guys who are validating can also talk to the owners of the interventions and say, without clinical trials, without clinical studies, you cannot move from where you are to where you need to get to. Are you prepared to allow your state government own 10% of your intervention if it becomes successful? So All those things are on the table, and this is where everybody now needs to, get to the level of priority that the federal government has set.
Well, Dr. Ben Amodu, you want to come in here just before you do, but let's get something clear. When Dr. Adigwe says 20 million, I don't think 20 million can buy any of these bulletproof cars that we see them driving around with sirens.
Can't.
Okay.
More than that.
All right.
Graduate alone is getting to 50, 100 million thereabout.
Okay.
Following from the contribution of DG Nitrate, right now, WHO has projected a $5 trillion coming from herbal medicine. So it has become a very big business, $5 trillion from this year in the next 5 years. That is the projected revenue from herbal medicine. So we should take it as a big business, as a means of diversifying the economy of Nigeria. There's nothing wrong in properly funding nitrate. All the works I did on Sabmal about 15 years ago was done for me in nitrate. And when it went internationally, it got accepted to the extent that the Indian Journal of Medical Research, which is a journal of over 145 years old, published it in August of 2014. And by that publication, when you have an evidence, that's the end of argument, So my thinking is that with all the donations we have had, talking about the governors, talking about the various development partners, they should move into the herbal sector and help us quickly so that we can diversify our economy through that. Because right now, the petrodollar is very, very down internationally. Ajokuta has just kick-started to develop the metal this thing. As for the herbal medicine, the fruits, they are just hanging for us to, and I'll give you a short example. Some American scientists visited me, took 5 of my anti-cancer products to the US, and I started with the analysis of one for colon cancer because of the preponderance of colon. They saw that it could also cure lung cancer, and they did the 2, and they got 89% in both cancers. And this product was tested in nitrate and was found to have anti-cancer properties. And when they went there, they found one doing 2. So those who criticize and open their mouth too much about what herbal medicine can do, I think it's better. It's better not to over-criticize, because for infectious diseases, herbal medicine is the way out. In the same analysis, they found that the 3 megabugs, which is devastating the entire world, what are they? Staphylococcus, E. coli, Salmonella. As I speak today, no country of the world has a clear-cut solution. In the UK, O'Neill Committee set up by the Prime Minister, what are the reasons for the health failures in the United Kingdom? Found out that even hip replacement operation is going to be difficult because of these 3 megabugs, and that they needed $100 trillion. Mysulfur 6 was found to cure these 3 megabugs. That is why today we dissolve fibroid without operation. We dissolve fallopian tube, open it without the need for operative procedure. And if we let the international community aware of this, you can imagine Nigeria will become the center, the fulcrum of a number of treatments, including kidney stone dissolving, prostate cancer, and all the rest. The solutions are there. It is just for government. There are a number of things that are irreversible with the modern medicine. Enlarged heart is over 30 million naira operation. Herbal medicine reverses it. Prostate, no need for cutting again. You drink herbal medicine, it dissolves it, you piss it out. Asthma has no cure anywhere in the world. The sulfur 6, because of its lungs effect, we are able to manage this. And if you dominate that all over the world, unit cost of asthma treatment or prostate cancer, which a friend told me did it for $12,000, and you can do it in Nigeria here. Tax and other things you make out of it. Even Nigeria occupying its position in the Committee of Nations. So please, we beg government to focus funding into nitrate. I was in Federal Ministry of Health, and they saw nitrate, 1 billion. A highly placed government official, what did he do? He just took his pen and crossed it. So what do they use 1 billion to do? What is 1 billion? In R&D, Submal, the level we have gone, a lot of millions have been spent on it. And today, in 15 minutes, 20 minutes, malaria is cured. Other viruses. So please, let's take ourselves seriously. Nigeria is a great country. It's the biggest in the black nations in the world. So but my happiness is that all these are going to be subjected together to a kind of an abridged trial. So if COVID-19 beat our own, let COVID, whatever, organic, whatever they call it, let it come up. If our own beats their own, let it be so.
Well, Dr. Ben Amodu and the other guests, gentlemen, we'll take a short break now.
The number of the COVID-19 cases in Nigeria is increasing daily, with many more tests ongoing. The battle of testing, isolating, treating, and attending to the affected persons rests heavily on the shoulders of our health workers, constantly putting their lives on the line and at risk to contain this virus, save and protect the lives of millions of Nigerians. To these health workers, we at the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, on behalf of millions of Nigerians, say a big thank you for all that you have done and are doing. To the security agencies enforcing the lockdown and every other frontliner, we say thank you for putting your lives on the line to save ours. There is no amount of words that can quantify our gratitude. Thank you. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, Africa's largest television network.
Nigerians, coronavirus is dangerous. It can kill. When you see this sign, high fever, cough, shortness of breath, drowsiness, pneumonia, don't panic, don't hide, don't embark in self-medication. Promptly visit the nearest medical facility. Report all cases to the nearest hospital. Prevention is key. Avoid contact with infected persons. Avoid crowded areas as much as possible. Wash your hands regularly. Use hand sanitizers. Your life is precious. Stay alive. Live long, live right. This message is sponsored by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture and the Nigerian Film Corporation. Nigerian Film Corporation, powering possibility.
Cadbury Hot Chocolate 3-in-1, a delicious combination of rich cocoa and wholesome goodness of milk. Just add hot water to get an instant chocolatey treat. Cadbury Hot Chocolate 3-in-1. Just add hot water.
Available in stores at 18 naira.
As a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19, a corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 22554272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
It's good to know you're still there, and we have a number of tweets that came in. Nigerians would like to contribute to our conversation this morning. I'll start with Law Alfasi. It's good news that President Muhammadu Buhari has sent for the Madagascar herbal medicine, and more emphasis should be paid to the recipe used to cure Governor Sheyi Makinde of Oyo State and Governor Mohammed of Bauchi respectfully, in view of the fact that fatalities are increasing.
Well, this is from Dada Stephen with the handle Steve Bond. Madagascar is making progress. There are many herbal practitioners here in Nigeria with the potential of getting a remedy, but it seems the government has ignored them. It's time to assist Nigerian local herbal doctors.
And David Apper tweets, please, we shouldn't neglect what we have already. Let's try that of Madagascar and Nigerians' own. We should not put all hope on Westerners.
Ibrahim Abdulsalam Bello tweets, it's high time we build trust in our abilities to proffer solutions to our problems in our own way. If we advocate for homemade goods for local consumption, then there's nothing wrong in embracing our herbal medicines and remedies for treatment. Let's look inwards for solutions.
And Chris Simon tweets, Madagascar has done a good job for working tireless to come out with medication and vaccine that can put an end to the dreaded pandemic. It's actually not a vaccine, it's a remedy. AU and Nigerians should appreciate it. It's a welcome development. Nigerian Association of Medical Practitioners and Doctors, Iris Medical Foundation have also done well for the research findings they've carried out to find a cure for coronavirus disease.
Innocent Yawa James, Nigeria is endowed with what it takes to have its own drugs for COVID-19 locally. Natural and human resources aren't a problem, but politics. Those who claim to have a remedy were not contacted.
And Osita Chibuke tweets, I am not surprised that Nigeria has quickly ordered Madagascar herbal medicine for COVID-19, but nobody even considered it was claimed to cure the same disease. Our leaders always depend on for Western medicine.
All right, Musa said there's no better solution to COVID-19 in Nigeria other than fixing our health sector. The Madagascar herbal and every vaccine will come to pass, but our peculiar problems need to be attended to.
And Nandam G. Web tweets, delay, it's dangerous. It's about time to believe in our ability, go back to the roots and stop waiting on the Western world as usual to solve problems. We already have answers. So God help Nigeria and deliver Nigerians.
All right, and this one is coming from Ruben Nagberi. It says the Madagascar experience has indicated yet again that the solution lies within us as a continent, that's Africa. In such a time, teamwork, faith, and experience should be the driving force of research to end the scourge of COVID-19. I would like to commend the Nigerian president for taking the bold step to order for the herbal medicine. But the lesson to take home is for government to encourage productive research and development in country, because we have good brains here and we also have the raw materials.
And Innocent Jawal James tweets, if we have the technology to subject COVID organic to proper scientific tests, why can't we call the best brains, which of course we have them available to prefer local solutions? Do we have to wait for WHO and Western world?
Amobola Humbabs says that Nigeria is considering the test of Madagascar herbal solution is a big slap on us as a nation. Why don't we cherish our own, except when they're outside Nigeria? We have seen professors at home here who came out to say they can provide herbal cure. Why not try them? Why go out?
And Yakubu Abdullahi tweets, herbal medicine is what we have been using for long. It's even more effective than what I call Oyibo drugs. I'm very sure that Nigeria's herbal medicine will cure coronavirus.
Cecilia Okoroma is one of our regular tweeters, says we must firstly learn to believe in ourselves that what the white man can do, the black man can do even better. Professor Iwu, as a pharmacologist, said he has a remedy for COVID-19. Let's give him a chance. Herbal remedy for the treatment of COVID-19, if we believe, can help.
And Oyebuchi McTurney Ezenwa tweets, COVID Organics CVO is already working in Madagascar and we are yet to consider it. Many Nigerian medical researchers have come out with solutions. Africans, Nigerians should value what we have. This is the lesson of the pandemic.
Now, Adamu Estefanos tweets, says that the federal government should not hesitate in COVID organic trial in the current predicament we are in. Waiting for WHO for solution while our economy is shrinking will worsen the matters. Local trial is paramount now.
And Willie Ajeba, the use of Madagascar medicine is in order. If it works, thanks to God, it's a solution. We need to stop the spread and death caused by the disease rather than waiting endlessly for Nigerian-made vaccine at the expense of loss of lives.
Eno Ayuk, coronavirus is not an easy virus to get rid of, especially when in a human body cells, due to how its genetic makeup is. Any herbal drug used as a remedy must be potent enough to denature its single strand. We must go into more herbal research to get it right.
And Mike tweets, herbal medicine can interact with pharmaceutical. If the clinical trial shows that a therapy works, it's good medicine.
We have this, it says Yahya Wada, we have to believe in our own while waiting for vaccines from elsewhere. Can't we focus on our own?
And Nolly Craft tweets, good morning, Kinsley and Jume. Kudos to your good work. It's a high time we begin to use what we have to bring solutions to our problems. We have men and women in Nigeria that can help to develop local medicine to cure this monster called COVID-19. The federal government must engage them urgently.
P.A. Oyebanje says, how long does it take a nation to validate a product? The Ministry of Health needs restructuring.
And Cecilia Okoroma again, thank God we have a government led by inward-looking visionary President Buhari and CBN Governor greatly supporting our farmers and local industries. Well, I think rice growers are encouraged and funded. We have rice in abundance. Support our herbal drugs too. We shall find COVID-19 cure.
That's right. That's a message to the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Yes. Yes.
That's a direct message.
Yes, that's a direct
to say that, fine, if you're funding rice value chain, you're funding SMEs and so on and so forth, why don't you also fund alternative medicine? It looks like alternative medicine has been neglected, but Adigwe has indicated that, look, you can get crowdfunding from zonal governments or various all kinds of fora, whether progressive governors or opposition governors or, wherever they are. Salisu Abdul Kadri says the science of medicine began from herbs. So those are the tweets that will accommodate in the meantime. Let's, unfortunately, we get pressed for time, always. Dr. Mohammed Jawa, we're coming back to you.
Yeah.
Listening to what the other guests have said, plus what you also indicated, now it's to say, look, from all that is there, there's no paucity of human capital for this. In other words, the experts are available. Presumably also, there's no paucity of raw materials, because if we look around us, we would find them. So how then do we move to the next stage? In terms of, say, look, trying to validate the claims or trying to even further encourage those who are into research to do more research, because beyond this, you have other things that need to be out there. Adigwe mentioned something. So look, can we get governance to either as a group or otherwise help in funding the validation of the claims, and then also get into industrial production, and they will have their own interest in this. From your experience, is this feasible? And depending on your response, what more would you like to see?
Yes, thank you very much. In fact, I really appreciate the effort of the government. The only thing I will say here is over 20 years, Federal Ministry of Health has been making a lot of effort to see that integration of traditional medicine is actualized in Nigeria. And I'm directly involved. For the past 20 years, I've been working with Federal Ministry of Health in traditional medicine development. But the issue is, when WHO advised member countries to develop their own traditional medicine, China go back and look at what is their own, and they develop it, and they make claim it is their own, and they call it traditional Chinese medicine, meaning tradition of people of China in medicine. India follows suit, and India has their Ayurvedic medicine, and is very unique to India only. And they go to develop also Unani medicine, and they took it to WHO. And it has been approved by WHO as a therapy now globally accepted. The effort, a lot of effort were made to make Africans understand that they have their own unique practice. But unfortunately, we could not look inward. Most of our scientists feel that if you study conventional science, you are equal to the task to develop traditional medicine. It's not true. Traditional medicine is a field of science that has a lot of knowledge, and it has its own concept, theory, and principles of practice. Unless we come back, as other people have done, we come back and learn exactly what it is, and we make claim that it is our own, and nobody will come and challenge us, then there we can look for investors. We can ask the government, because we have uniformity of purpose. Now, if I said I'm developing African traditional medicine based on the principles of African traditional medicine practice, somebody will say he's developing alternative medicine. Somebody will say he's developing complementary medicine as it is now in the Federal Ministry of Health. It cannot be comprehended. I cannot even understand. We were asked to develop African traditional medicine, and we have a regional office, WHO, developing African traditional medicine. Our head of governors met here in Nigeria for the over past 12 years, I think, agree to develop African traditional medicine. But the scientists resisted, that they feel what they are doing is African traditional medicine, which is not. So I'm calling on all our scientists, let's come back and develop what is ours. Then we make clear, and also we make a request to fund it uniformly. It will be funded. But now if you look at the research institute, they are diverse. Some are saying they are developing phytomedicine, some are developing herbal medicine, and some are saying they are developing traditional medicine. It's very difficult to convince a government or individual investor or corporate investors to come and put money, because they are not specific or they are not defined to cater for something. China is making a lot of money in herbal medicine or traditional Chinese remedies, but they are building on what they understood as this is what it will do in the body. Now in our own case, some are looking at what it will balance in the body, while others are looking at the chemical component of it. It will balance this. If you are short of this, it will balance this, and it become what? Supplementary. We are looking for medicine to cure disease, to take care of, completely cure the disease. We are not talking of supplementary. We are not looking of complementary. We are looking for medicine that will take care of a disease, will eliminate it. So this is one aspect. And I really appreciate the effort of the government today as far as COVID-19 is concerned. I'm here, but I was facilitated by my state government. My state government wrote to the Federal Ministry of Health to consider the product we produce, because definitely they are in need of it. They will start giving it to patients, but the governor insisted that let it go through the normal process, because we are a government and we have to follow the protocols of the government. That's why I'm here. And they give me pass to come to Abuja. They give me letter to the Federal Ministry of Health to submit what I have, because they value it, they consider it, and they agree with what I've said here.
Which state are you? Which state is
Yobe
this?
State. Yobe State government facilitate my coming here. And they wrote a letter to the Federal Ministry of Health, because the Federal Minister called that every claim should be submitted to the ministry. They have a department, they have NIPRI that will take care of all this. But in my coming, I feel I will not just stop by submitting. After submitting the product with the letter to the Federal Ministry of Health, I took the samples to NIPRI and I paid for the analysis, acute toxicity study, because we need it. We need to see what we are giving people are not toxic. It's left to the federal government if they will do it or they will not do it. We will do it. My government, my state government will pay for it. And they have paid for it. We are ready to see that we scale through the scientific validation as expected by the government. And we will do our best. I thank them very much for considering this, my effort. And also I am expecting other state government also to look inward, so that by coming in, putting pressure, because Madagascar's president insisted that he will use it. Yes. After all rejection from everybody, the highest advisory body in health is WHO. They rejected it. They said it has to undergo this, but he said they have done it, and it will not kill their people. Yes. They have given it. Now in Nigeria, they are saying we will not subject our people to herbal medicine. We will not kill our people. It has to undergo a... What analysis does this need? This one is what? The claim is to balance the temperament of respiratory system, improve the function, clear the airways, and also boost the immunity. This is the claim here. And it contains antiviral activity that definitely the substance we claim will clear the virus is here and has been tested globally. We are not putting anything very new. It has been used in Africa for over 5,000 years too.
All right, Dr. Jawa, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your perspective. Professor Ernest Ugo, back to you in our Enugu Network Center. You know, the last time we took on Search for Solutions, which was one of the excerpts we took in the introduction to this conversation this morning, Professor McDonald Edu, who is of the University of Benin, is also into phytomedicine research, did say, look, in a sense, the knowledge is out there, but of course, if knowledge is not cheap to acquire, nor is it cheap, to agglutinate and then use it for a specific purpose. Well, we are discussing in the context of COVID-19, but we do know that post-COVID-19, our health crisis will still remain. What, therefore, would you like to see for us to overcome the current tide of COVID-19 and then get into a new phase of healthcare that sufficiently recognizes and even utilizes alternative, complementary, or herbal medicine, so-called?
Thank you very much. As I said earlier, the government is making some efforts, but more efforts are definitely required. From my own part of medicine, homeopathy, we don't have so many problems. It's just a matter of sensitization and encouragement. I have some samples of the medicines here. This is aconite, well packaged, and we have arsenicum album, which is being used in India, well packaged. Why I say we don't have too many problems with this branch of medicine is that the medicines have no side effect. The way they are diluted in infinitesimal doses makes these medicines harmless. The COVID-19 pandemic definitely requires all branches of medicines to be encouraged, whether it is homeopathy, because these homeopathic remedies are already listed by NAFDAC. We don't have many problems. We have passed through the toxicity test and all the tests required, except in the clinical trial. The other branches of medicine, like the phytomedicine, you mentioned Professor Idu is my friend. He's a professor of phytomedicine. The phytomedicines are produced in Nigeria. They are manufactured here. And whatever tests, whatever trials are supposed to be done should be done by the Federal Ministry of Health and their agencies. They have the NAFDAC and the other agencies, and they should be done as quickly as possible so that we can help our people. Some of my own colleagues have been asking me, why are we not called by government? Why are we not called to participate in the treatment? And I tell them, little by little, by the grace of God, we shall be called. And this development now we are seeing is very, very, very encouraging. Then the other question you asked, post-COVID, we know that the economy of the world is not good, especially the African countries. And Nigeria, that has a mono economy based on oil, we're having this crisis. So we're also sympathizing with government, but government has a duty to equip the hospitals. The government has a duty to encourage the health centers in the villages, the district clinics, all these extension clinics, so that the treatment can get to the rural poor. It is very, very, very important. The Minister of Health definitely is working very hard with his colleagues. But I know that the problem is funding. It will involve everybody. The National Assembly, the Presidency, the state governments, the houses of assemblies in the states, everybody should be involved.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Ernest Ugo, Professor of Homeopathic Pharmacology and Chiropractics, and also President, Nigerian Institute of Homeopathy. Thank you so much for coming on the program. We'd also like to thank Dr. Mohammed Ibrahim Jawa, founder and president, MIJ College of Traditional Medicine and Acupuncture, and president, African Traditional Medicine Association of Nigeria. It's been a pleasure having you on the program.
Thank you.
Dr. Obi Odigwe, Director General, Nigerian Institute of Pharmaceutical Research and Development. As always, it's a pleasure.
Good to be here.
And Dr. Ben Ahmadu, Managing Director, African Alternative Medicine Hospital, Abuja, Clinical Director, Abuja, Fellow Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, and Fellow Complementary and Alternative Medicine. He is also lead phyto-medicine researcher. Thank you so much for coming on the program.
Thank you, sir.
Sport Update is next.